here we go. This is the main event. Up to this point, we've just kind of been doing preparatory stuff and conceptual stuff, and now we get to really just draw it and paint it and do the work. So I'll talk about the broad concepts and the major ideas of working in the style of John Singer Sargent, and we'll do that while this is time-lapsing to kind of speed things along. The sketch does not need to be perfect. We are not creating a coloring book for our painting. We're just doing a really quick paint or a really quick sketch that we can paint on top of it. And as long as we got it somewhat close, we're going to be okay. We do want to have good proportions, and that's something that we can get with our line work, or it's something we can get as we adjust our line work, which is sometimes what happens, and that's what happened for this drawing for me today. I used the blender tool and knocked down some of the edges just so I kind of know roughly where everything is. I wanted to show here that you can start painting directly on the charcoal layer. You can do that with your watercolor, you can do that with your acrylic, you can do that with your oils, and the media is going to mix directly into the charcoal and you get a really cool effect. I love that. And you know, as you use Rebelle, if you're using the real wet media, you can change the amount of water or opacity, and as you let it kind of spill out and spread and drip, you can hit F to freeze that action so you can keep it where you want it. Don't let it get too out of control, or you can just kind of let it run wild. The big mop brushes are also great for coverage, but my favorite watercolor brushes are the Sumi brushes because they just have so much personality in the brush strokes. Now, doing the lay-in, working from the mid-tones out is the John Singer Sargent way, and you can see that. My sketch here is a little bit frumpy, and it's just kind of looks like a big old blob, which is fine because all I'm really trying to do is get some tone on there and get some value on there. I'm not really too worried about getting it perfect, like I said. And I just want to demo some of the tools and brushes that I like, the grunge brush and some of my own custom brushes. Any of the brushes you see me use here, you can just pause the video and look at the settings, and you know, if you like it, great, use it. If not, use whatever you like. I just wanted to try to find some brushes that fit with the style of the mark making that John Singer Sargent makes. So going from there, just demonstrating a little bit here how the HSV or hue, saturation, and value sliders work using the color picker up there. I really like using HSV sliders because you can choose your hue, which is like your color first, you know, color family. Oh, I want something kind of red or red-orange for the hair or whatever. And then you can choose the saturation, meaning, you know, how intense or saturated or desaturated it is. And then you can choose at the end the value. It's sort of working a little bit backwards, but it is a beautiful way to work because those sliders are very elegant and focus in on, you know, the three main things, which is color, color temperature, color intensity, and then lightness and darkness. And so using those sliders, all I'm doing is kind of bouncing back and forth, refining my proportions as I go, using as big of a brush as possible. And again, you know, to quote my mentor, we're talking about look 3 times, think 2 times, and make 1 stroke. That's my mentor, who is trained in this style of painting, who trained me in this style of painting, always said that the way to work like this is to use the biggest brush possible. Don't even let there be small brushes in your studio, and work quickly, work wet on wet, keep it, you know, very alla prima, very direct, responding to the subject, painting with big bold marks, look 3 times, think 2 times, and make 1 stroke. And this is really, really, really the way we want to move through this process. We do not want to belabor any of it. We want to just get moving. We want to use the most confident, bold, big marks that we can, and we want to just go after that light, capturing the feeling, the mood, the temperature, the bravado of the light. The thing that John Singer Sargent does so well in these paintings, whether it's a portrait or a landscape or some mix of the two, he has a way of letting the paint speak, because he has his brush almost like maybe like a swordsman attacking something. That brush just goes after the subject, and seeing each individual mark so strongly present, it's almost like like it speaks, and I think that's what people love about John Singer Sargent, and that's the thing that he will always be known for. And a lot of times, people, when they look at his work, maybe they think, oh, well, he was just a realist painter, the painting at the time, the Impressionists were kind of breaking norms, and he was just kind of this member of the old guard. Well, that's not really true at all. I mean, he was someone who faced major controversies in his lifetime for his work. His painting of Madame X was so scandalous and controversial, and impacted both of their lives, he and the model. He had a number of paintings that were seen as outrageous in his lifetime, and for various reasons. And so he was a guy that maybe didn't change art history in the way that Monet did, but he is someone who definitely had far more than just technical ability. And so studying an artist like this is really fun, because there's always more and more and more we can learn from them. But the thing that I always learn from Sargent is that his faculty, his economy of brushstrokes, is that he can speak so well and to say so much with so few brushstrokes. And that is something that I always admire. And it's something that at this point in the painting I was struggling with, because while I love this software, and while I'm incredibly fond of it, it's still not I don't have as much brush mileage in this software as I do with say maybe Photoshop historically. I've painted for so many years in Photoshop that I still don't have like my quick go-to solutions for everything when I'm painting in Rebelle. And so as a result, sometimes it takes me way more brush strokes than I wanted to kind of get that one mark to describe that complex shape. And so that is something that I found I was really having to work through in this process. I think that it's a continual challenge, no matter how experienced you are, that you have to sort of do that 3 looks, 2 thinks, 1 stroke process. And I think that's the best thing about painting in general, is that you're never really done. It's a journey. It's a journey of getting better and better and better and better, and more and more and more intuitive, and more and more and more responsive and sensitive. And you can see that, like, even in this part of the drawing, I'm discovering brushes that I have hardly used, and relishing that and trying the different blend modes. I think with Rebelle, one of the great strengths is that you not only can change the brush to almost any type of brush, but then you can modify the media and how wet or dry or opaque or transparent it is. But then you can also change the canvas. Then you can also change the individual brush properties to a great degree. And then you can also, and you go on and on and on. And so you can literally make anything. You can make anything happen. And then the serendipity of the wet on wet allows for some true magic to happen on the canvas. So I found that I feel so at home in this software, and I feel like any of the great masters that I want to tackle, any of the most beautiful things that I've seen in the whole spectrum of art history, all that stuff is doable here. Is you can replicate it all, and that's just beyond amazing. What I wanted to do is, in this part of the painting, is start to find that delicate balance of how much information can I include while not making this a detailed painting. I wanted to leave it very raw and very much about the brush strokes, and very kind of very like painterly is the word. I wanted to keep it very fast and loose throughout. And when painting that way, you have to be careful so that if you include eyelashes or the little wisps of hair that are catching the glints of sunlight, or maybe a little bit of moisture on a lip, or a little bit of detail on the shirt collar, you can include that stuff, but you have to do it very sparingly, because as you start to include more and more detail, that detail is going to start to necessitate the kind of consistent application of that level of detail across the whole canvas, such that you have internal consistency, right? So you can't have just like a lot of detail in the collar and nowhere else, obviously. And so as you work in this manner, you just have to be very sensitive to how much information is enough and how much is too much, and how do you kind of strike that balance. But as I come to the end here and start to find my way and start to keeping John Singer Sargent's paintings in my mind as I'm working, I start to feel more and more at home with this painting and more delighted with how it's going. I think this is a series that I'm really going to enjoy because I get to sort of take into my heart each of my favorite artists and create something beautiful in sort of in their name. And that's it. There is the final painting. I was able to include some little wisps of hair and details and textures across the hair without overdoing it, I think. And I think the freckles and some of the details around the eyes and the shirt were able to be established without adding too much detail and ruining that painterly, soft John Singer Sargent quick brushstroke effect. So I had a blast with this, and I hope you guys did too. We'll see you next time.